Bill, hello.
Hi there, Mark.
We're outside the McAvoy shed. And you're going to take me inside to show me a very interesting motorbike.
I just want to show you one of the museum's latest acquisitions. It's absolutely fascinating. There's only two of these bikes known to exist, and this particular one, or at least one of it, got the ultra lightweight world record here at Brooklands in October 28. Isn't it? It's just an absolute delight. Look at that engine. Look, I mean, it was designed by Fritz Moser in Switzerland. When he marketed his own engines, he called that the Monza engine. But this one was the AKD was in partnership with Moser, or at least they used their engines. The interesting thing about it, because I'd never been able to fully work out whether the Abingdons bought the engines in, or whether they were made under license. But what we discovered when we acquired this bike was that the bottom end was actually made in Birmingham. It was made by Burmal, so it proves that at least the bottom end was made locally. And whether the top end was, whether the cylinder and valve gear came from Switzerland or whether they made it in Birmingham, I don't know. But a lovely machine, isn't it?
Why is it here? How is it that it's here?
It was a bike I'd been after for 20 years, and the previous owner didn't know what a rarity it was. He knew it was rare. A chap down in Cornwall, Charlie Williams, nice man. I made him a silly offer about 20 years ago, and I said, Charlie, what did you know? Oh no, he said, I don't want to sell it. No, I don't want to sell it just yet. I don't want to sell it. And I would ring him maybe every 3 months. I'd ring him and say, Charlie, what about this? Do you want to sell it? No, I don't want to sell it yet. And after about 4 or 5 years, I gave up. During COVID, I had as we all were, there was a spare moment, or a spare moment or a year, and I rang him. I said, Charlie, what about this AKD then? He said, I sold it. I said, you promised me first refusal. No, he said, I sold it. A dealer came. He said, a dealer came, put me under pressure, so I sold it. I swore at him. And about 4 months later, a friend who knew that I wrote the history of the Abingdon Works, of AKDs and the Abingdon Works. And a friend who just rang me and said, you need to look on Facebook right away. And I did, and it was being offered for sale by a motor dealer. Sadly for me, in the 2 or 3 months, 4 months that it had been in two dealers' hands, and it had gained £1,200 in price. but there it is. That's the story of this bike, and with the curatorial department, it's a really interesting project, because you've got a bike that is in pretty well original condition. So restoration versus conservation. What do you do? The mudguards were absolutely knackered, so we've had to have new mudguards, and what I want to do is to try and make them look like the rest of the frame. The tank has just been painted in a terribly haphazard way. It's an interesting project of as I say, conservation versus restoration. How you deal with a bike that you want to exhibit.
What does AKD stand for?
AKD is Abingdon King Dick. The company, the Abingdon Works, they're best known for their adjustable spanner. The adjustable spanner was sold in the millions to the armed forces during both wars, first the Great War and the Second War. But they made motorcycles between 1904 and 1931. And Brooklands is very fortunate. We've actually got 3 of them. The Kerry Abingdon, which is outside the clubhouse at the moment. The AKD 300, which has been was both of those bikes went down to see that gardener chap, Alan Titchmarsh, and appeared on his show. Sunday with something for the weekend, a little something for the weekend. And this one is, as I say, this one is fairly new to the museum, and we're just making a new oil tank for it. Because this is someone's made this out of it, what looks like an old biscuit tin or something. Okay. So there we go.
Is it running?
Yeah.
And it will go around the finishing straight?
Yes, it does. It's very, very highly geared. And when it came to me, it had a gear lever that went up there. In the early, for the first part of the 1920s, gear levers were often a long lever that came up here, and you had to put your hand round and do that. By 27, 28, Abingdons and most other manufacturers were putting their gear changes on the side of the tank, either on the tank itself or on a bracket under the tank. My theory is that the high gearing for this bike is such that it would be suitable for trying to actually make a record, because if you and the gear shift like this, because all you did was you got on the bike, you started up, you got going, got into third, and then just went for it. You just opened the throttle up, put the power on, and just went as fast as you could until the end of the run. Anyway, we made this, which puts it back as it was in the catalogue, and as it was. There was the other racer, the guy who rode this, very unfortunate story. A young man called Biff Edmonds. Biff Edmonds was riding a works rider for Abingdons. It was an unusual thing because they hadn't previously had works riders. Anyhow, they gave him a bit of a stipend and let him loose on the bikes. He ran a similar bike in the Ulster Grand Prix of 28 and got, I think, 4th place in the ultra lightweight class. The other guy, and then he came to Brooklands and raced a couple of times. The reason it's got number 18 is that was the race number that's on one of the race cards that we've got here that was there. But the other chap that raced one was a man in Australia called Hoppo. And there's a picture of Hoppo on a similar machine with no mud guards. Took all the tinware off to lighten the bike. And he was that's got the gear change like that. So a really an interesting, fascinating bit of history.
So what did this bike achieve at Brooklands?
56.77 miles per hour. And then I mean, it's nothing much, but then it's a 174 engine, which is
what year?
28.
28.
October 28. And it's just this rocker gear that makes it very, very, very quick. They're all bearings, the ball bearings inside all these. Just a lovely, lovely little engine. Very quick.
So we're very happy to have it in the collection.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think Lisa, the curator, is happy.
Good. Good. And so will the public be.
I think so. There's a great call for. I mean, Brooklands is really enormously lucky to have such rare bikes.
Mm.
But the fact that those two, the Kerry Abingdon and the other AKD, have been up to the NEC for on 3 occasions to be on other people's stands.
Yeah.
They've been loaned out. They've been down to see Alan Titchmarsh, as I said. It's just the people like the rarities, don't they?
Will this be running and parading at Motorcycle Day in July?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the once I get the oil tank fixed, this is going to an event. Is it just before that or just after it? The end of July, it's going to France to a run. It's too high geared for the run that I'm taking it on. I know that the corners are very, very tight. There's a very sharp sharp right hand and a hairpin bend. So you've got to slow right down, and you've got to really scream it to get into and then go into second. And as you take your hand off the thing, the revs drop, and by the time it's slow to pick up.
Bill, this has been fascinating. Thank you very much for introducing it to us.
Not at all.
And we look forward to seeing it in action in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've come outside, and we're now outside the front of the clubhouse, and we have another AKD of a similar vintage.
Yeah, that's right. This particular bike, again, there's only two known to exist. This is a 300. It's a side valve, and it was the history of Abingdon's was that they'd been making motorcycles from 1904, and after the war they were struggling rather. They made a car in 23, of which they only made 12, and that was an absolute failure. So they more or less went out. They still produced a few. Then in 27. For the 28 market, they came back into the business of selling motorbicycles and called themselves the Lightweight King, because the lightweights had gained popularity after the war, primarily because of fuel consumption, but also because of just changing circumstances. People were looking for a lightweight machine rather than the heavyweights, the 500s, the 1000s. They were a work-a-day bike. But the pushed by the motorcycle, they were really making inroads. So that by 2022, the TT on the Isle of Man had developed a lightweight race, which ultimately became the junior race. So you had the seniors and the juniors, and that was that. The 300 is, as I say, it's another rarity, but it's in a lot better shape, as you can see, than the other one.
And the difference being doing different jobs?
I think my feeling is that the 300 was put into the catalogue. It's the only side valve that they had. The others in the mark were all overhead valves, little overhead valves. One where they started with 174s and ultimately went up to a 250 overhead valve. And they by 1931 they were in serious trouble again. They were sold in at the end of 31, and the man who bought the company was Walter Mansell, that everybody knows as Bill Mansell, who was the managing director of Norton's. And Bill Mansell made the decision in 31, late 31, that he would cease motorcycle production, because he had no necessity of motorcycles. He had all the sexy bits of Norton's, where people were, they were winning everything. They were doing terribly well, and his son Dennis was riding outfits and running outfits in competitions. So he stopped the production of motorcycles, and they never, after 31, they didn't make any more. They actually sold a few in 32, but it was stock material, and they carried on then with cycle parts and general tooling, and they continued making cycle parts and components for cycles right up until the Second War. And then in the Second War they gave up. But after the Second War they gave up on cycle parts as well and just made tools thereafter. But this one is the earlier one yet. This is from the same company. This is the Abingdon Works. This is 1910, and they made an arrangement, the Abingdon Works, to join with Alfred Kerry, who had a company called the East London Rubber Company. And the East London Rubber Company were motor factors, and if you bought one of these motor bicycles in England or in the UK, you bought it as a Kerry Abingdon. If you bought it in the rest of the world, you would buy it as an Abingdon King Dick. And this is a 3.5 horsepower single speeder that was converted in 1911 with the addition of a hub gear to give it 2 gears. And it's been here at the museum for, I don't know, 10 years maybe, I think. Lovely old machine.
So when did the company start?
They started, they advertised themselves, they always advertised themselves as starting in 1856. And the Abingdon Works was named, I think, because the principal of the company, Thomas Mabbott, was made managing director. He came from Abingdon. I discovered after very, very long, tortuous research. He came from Abingdon. They moved to Birmingham, to Aston, and he started work when he did start work at age 16 or thereabouts, I think he was apprenticed to make tools for guns, for small arms. So it was turn screws, nipple wrenches, that sort of thing was what he made. They started, the Abingdon Works was formed in that. So when he in those early days, he was just working by himself. The Abingdon Works was Shadwell and Bath Street in Birmingham, and that company was incorporated in 1876, and they had considerable works and a big workforce. And they were the earliest. They said they were the earliest and one of the most sort of proficient cycle component manufacturers that making sort of high wheelers and all sorts of bikes or parts for them. And then they went into the manufacture of. They were just doing anything. It was guns, small arms manufacture, like the BSA. In fact, the story of you need to read the book to get the full story. But they were very closely associated with the BSA in the early days. In fact, 10 of the first principals of the Abingdon Works were also shareholders of the BSA.
Bill, what's the book called?
The Quest for King Dick.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Not at all.
Very, very interesting.